Today in the studio, our guest is Caroline. She used to work in Christchurch and now she's back from her holiday. Welcome back, Caroline.
Thanks, Naoko.
I know this is your third visit to New Zealand. What inspired you to return to New Zealand?
I have family here and friends, of course, and I just wanted to pay a visit and say hello to people while I had the money to travel. I know New Zealand is quite far away from England, but I feel very tied to this country. I love it very much, and since I got home last year, I thought about New Zealand every day and I missed it an awful lot, and I thought if I got the opportunity to go back to New Zealand soon, then I would take it, and I managed to save up some money for an airfare. So I was always focused on coming back to New Zealand. I wasn't really interested in going on holiday anywhere else for the time being.
I totally know that feeling. Before I completely shifted to New Zealand, I was missing New Zealand so much from Japan. Have you noticed any changes in Christchurch since you were last here?
Yes, I have. I noticed that they're extending the tram tracks now, and there's tram tracks in Cashel Street. I noticed that the High Street regeneration is finished with the Flower Power sculpture there, which I really like.
Yeah, I noticed more arts in Christchurch, which is good.
What else have I noticed? Recycling bins outside people's houses, and that some bus routes have changed.
You didn't have recycling bin then?
Oh, yes, we have in England, but I think when I was in New Zealand last year, I think they were just being introduced into businesses and giving recycling bins to homes.
We have lots of cultural differences between Japan and New Zealand. For example, Kiwis are more assertive, good at DIY, good at gardening, much more relaxed. What cultural differences do you notice between New Zealand and England?
Definitely similar sort of thing to you, Naoko. I noticed that Kiwis are very much more relaxed than people in England, because it's such a good outdoors lifestyle here. There's a lot of sport that goes on. People are always outside and getting up to things, and it's not all about work. It's about things outside of work, socialising with friends and cycling at the weekend and playing tennis and things like that. In England, it's a bit more work oriented, and people talk more about work than they do about anything else. And it's busier. It's far busier in England. There's 70 million people there now. 70 million people in the United Kingdom, so that includes Scotland, Wales and Northern Ireland. And there's only 4 million people here. So I think that's the difference. I would say that Kiwis are much more relaxed than people in England. But apart from that, not too different.
I'm just wondering, do you have activities in England?
Oh yeah, it's just the same. There are people in England that, of course, engage in sports and do all sorts of different things and have hobbies and interests. But people tend to work a lot more in England. The working week is longer, so typically people can work 45 to 60 hours a week. And although I would imagine there are people in New Zealand that do that, I don't think there are as many. It certainly doesn't give me that impression. People go to work to earn the money, to pay the bills and just live for the weekend and live for after work.
When I work, I just want to concentrate on my job and I can relax. I like New Zealand lifestyle. We don't have flatting system in Japan. Do you have one in England? What's the norm?
Just the same as it is in New Zealand. Yeah, we don't call it flatting, we call it flat share. And just as you can in New Zealand, you go on Trade Me and you can find people who have a room to let. You can go onto something, I can't remember off the top of my head now, but there's this spareroom.co.uk. You can go on there and find a spare room in someone's house. You can rent just as you do here. You can buy just as you do here. It's exactly the same. I would say the rent is cheaper in New Zealand than it is in England.
What age do you start flatting?
Whenever you're ready, really. There's a lot of young people that flat share in England, typically when they go to university. Go to university at 18, and the norm is to share a house with like-minded students the same age.
How do you find New Zealand food compared to home?
New Zealand food?
Yes.
I love New Zealand food. I absolutely love it. I think I much prefer a New Zealand cafe to an English cafe.
Oh, is it different?
It is different. You still have your glass cabinets where you can see food, but I much prefer the choice you have in New Zealand. It's geared to be more vegetarian. And there's the gluten-free selection. Now, I don't need to eat gluten-free food, but I really like that New Zealand make a big deal out of that and make sure that they provide food that fits everybody's dietary requirements. In England, that's available is lovely. I'm not saying that English cafes aren't nice. They are. They're really great.
Do they have flat white?
No, they call it filter coffee. It's nice. I think it's slightly different to a New Zealand flat white. It's just coffee in a cup and you just put milk in it. And I think you do that with a flat white, but it's a bit foamy, isn't it? It's nice. So I think they're slightly different. I'm not quite sure what constitutes a flat white and what constitutes... Well, I know in a filter coffee it's just coffee with milk, but I know that's not quite how it is in New Zealand, but it does taste different.
Which do you prefer?
I think I definitely prefer New Zealand food, just in the sense that the choice available is more to my taste. The vegetables that you get here, kumara, capsicum, yams, things like that. You can buy those in England, but they're not really featured in salads, but they are here, and I really like that. So I'm not saying that English food isn't healthy, because I'm sure it is. I don't want to give that impression. It's all personal opinion.
You know, England is extremely far away from New Zealand if I want to go there. Maybe I need to fly to Japan to start with and change another flight to go to England. It might take 24 hours or something. Even so, a popular travel destination for England people?
I think it's becoming more and more popular, definitely. Certainly, when I went back to England, I told everybody that I could about New Zealand.
It's far away.
I know, and it doesn't feel far away to me. It's weird, but I've made the trip over 3 times now, and the trip doesn't bother me. I know it's, nearly 2 days, but the trip doesn't bother me at all. I don't mind. I can sleep on the plane, I watch a film, I read a book,
My longest flight ever was between New Zealand and Japan, which takes about 11 hours or so. It's enough for me, so I totally admire you. I can't imagine what is it like.
It's not the most comfortable journey because you're cooped up on it in a little seat, but I'm young and I can do it, so it doesn't bother me. But there are people in England that New Zealand, really appeals to them, especially New Zealand immigration or New Zealand government, I don't know who, but they're advertising quite a lot on England TV, trying to get people to go and live in New Zealand.
Oh, really? You can see TV commercials?
So there's TV commercials in England saying, come over to New Zealand and live here.
What? That's interesting. I'd love to see something like that in Japan.
People are quite attracted because the pictures on the commercial, it's all of Milford Sound and the glacier and the countryside, and it's beautiful, and people are attracted, and the airfares are more affordable for people now, I think. So
yeah, I think airfare is getting cheaper for Asian country as well. By the way, this is completely different topic, but you used to do DJ work in New Zealand, right? Could you tell me a bit about it?
Yeah, I used to DJ for weddings and christenings and bar mitzvahs. And
I don't know how does it work. In Japan, we don't really have DJ at the party, even a special occasion. Do you scratch record?
Oh, no. It's I worked for an entertainment company, and you play music off a computer. So the focus is more on you, not necessarily doing all these tricks with music, but getting on the microphone and saying, come on, get up and dance, grandma, and all that kind of thing.
So do you bring your own computer to
No,
party?
the company provides it for you. You just bring yourself.
Do you need to dress up?
Yes, you have to look very smart.
It's a very interesting job. How did you start?
I've been a DJ for many years. I've DJ'd since I was 17, and I just fell into it. I didn't want to be a DJ. I just had some friends who did it, and they said, come along and see if you like it. And I love music, and I really enjoyed DJing. So that's how it started. I started where I grew up in Blackpool, in the northwest of England, and went from there, really.
Could you please share with us any one-liner that you use? Like, hey, come on, check it out. I have no idea, but just wonder.
No, I just don't like cheesy DJs. I can't stand it. It makes me laugh, but I'm not like that. And I only
You're
say
not cheesy.
I'm not a cheesy DJ. No, I'm very much the sort of girl who likes to get people up and dancing, but I don't do it with cheesy one-liners. I play good music, and I'll kind of go on the microphone and I'll get the birthday girl dancing, and she'll get her friends up, and then we'll say, oh, we want to say hello to such and such and such and such, and come on and come up and do some dancing here. So that's all I do. I don't do any cheesy one-liners.
But today, for the listeners, can you do some cheesy lines?
I can't do it. It's so embarrassing. You'd have like, are on the wheels of steel right now. We've got a bit of the Beatles. And, just come and ask me if you want a tune. I will play your favourite tune. And this is for all you sexy grandmothers out there.
That sounds good, though. That's the way to go. Maybe you can start doing them.
No, I don't think so.
Thank you so much for coming to the studio today.
You're very welcome. Thanks, Naoko.